So this project has come about just because I actually started to do my upcycling of this linen shirt, linen blouse, and then decided to turn it into a tutorial afterwards because of what I decided to do with it. So I thrifted this huge linen shirt or blouse. I can see it's massive. I've already taken the sleeves off, so there were little short sleeves on it, which I've just cut off already. And there was this funny stand-up collar thing, which was a bit weird really. Sort of a funny, I don't know, like a funny stand-up collar, which you can see it was just a bit of a weird shape. So I've taken that off. And I was about to just sew it into something that fit me, and all of a sudden I decided actually all it needed was to take the fullness out here and the fullness out of the back, and then I could make it into something, I don't know, just a nice little, maybe sleeveless little top. But when I was thinking about the fullness, I thought maybe it was a really good candidate to do some smocking. And that's what's made me decide to turn it into a tutorial. So there's actually going to be a tutorial about doing smocking. I think smocking's lovely, and I haven't actually done it for over 20 odd years. The last time I did any smocking at all was when I used to smock dresses for Naomi when she was a little girl, and I haven't done any for myself. So that's what I'm going to do. So the first thing I need to do is actually just try it on, decide how much of this excess I can get away with gathering up into the middle, and then cutting the back and altering the back in to make it fit me. So once it can fit me, then I can decide from there what I'm going to do. Actually, those armholes are pretty huge. I've done the alterations that I need to do before I start to mark out for the smocking, and I just thought I'd go through them. I just pinned the armhole where it would fit me to take the armhole, and I just graded it out to the side because it's got a nice slit here. I didn't want to do anything that would, I didn't want to impact that. I wanted the fullness for my hips anyway. Obviously if I was dealing with the front, I had to deal with the amount of fabric in the back, and it almost got cut in half down the back, and at the last second I thought, why didn't I just put a box pleat in? And so I just took the excess fabric and I sewed. I'll turn it inside out so you can see it. So I just nipped the excess fabric out like that and pinned it. I sewed down just however much I thought, just to my sort of centre of my back, and then I pleated it into a box pleat. Really the smocking has to come last. There's no point going to all the bother of the smocking if the whole thing's not going to fit in the end. It has to be able to fit first to make it worth the time. I decided I'd go and finish off all the edges, and so for the armholes I didn't even bother hemming them on the machine. I didn't even bother hemming them with sewing thread. I folded twice over. I neatened them up, folded them over twice, and then I have used Bonnie Pearl cotton, this one, and I've just running stitched it with really small stitches, and it's made a really nice finish right around the armhole. Instead of turning under like I've done for the sleeves, I actually turned this hem outwards because I thought I'd quite like the little ridge as a little extra detail, and so it's turned out the whole way around, just a tiny little hem. And again I running stitched it round. It didn't take very long, and what I've done is I've just put a pin down at the side of my bust where I think the smocking has to finish, and I've put a pin here for how far down I think it should come, so that's just under my bust. And I know how much I need to get here. I need 3.5 inches width of smocked fabric. If I can't get enough smocking to do the 3.5 inches, I'd end up with a narrower smocked piece, but that's fine. In the end it's just a practice so that I'll know whether I want to smock myself a blouse from entirety. So this is a practice piece in the end, but it's definitely a wearable practice, I hope. I've got a piece of cardboard here just from something that's been delivered. I'm going to put it up the inside because I don't want any of my marking pen to come through to the other side, and plus it gives me a nice flat area. So I'm just going to start and mark this up. I can see my centre line. I'll measure and see how far apart that is. It's actually 16 between my tailor's tacks, and from where I want to start down to the bottom I rounded it up to 23, so it's just underneath where I marked. So now I can just pull these out and they'll just pull free. I've got my panel. The next thing is to mark the dots, and I'm going to do 1 centimetre apart across the width. I'm going to lie my ruler in, and I am going to make a dot at every centimetre. And you really need to be accurate with these. And as far as I know, you can get iron-on transfers that put the dots on, but you know, it's not very much work to just put the dots on. Or I suppose it depends how much material you're smocking up. You might be smocking up a lot more than me. So that's my first row of dots. I'm going to go, actually I'm just going to use my ruler. I'm not going to measure. I can see the line through here, and I'm going to set my line just there. So I think that's actually about 1.5 centimetres, and I'm going to do my next row of dots. And I need to dot this whole piece of linen up so that I can go to the next stage, like that. So there's my second row. So I am going to get on and dot this whole piece up, and I'm not sure whether you're going to see them all, but they are definitely there. And I'm going to use white sewing machine cotton in my needle. I've just got a sharp, and it's now time for gathering. I'll just start at the bottom because it's easier for the camera. I'm going to put a decent knot in actually, because it's linen. I don't want the knot to pull through. I'm just going to pick up the couple of threads of where each dot is, and I'm not going to gather up yet. There's no point in me actually doing any gathering. Just picking the actual dot up off the fabric right the way along. And hoping I've marked them accurately, that's for sure. It's so long since I did this. I used to smock little panels for Naomi's little dresses when she was at nursery, and you know, when she was in infant school, but I've never actually done it on an adult piece of anything. Well, the only person I make clothes for is myself now. I don't think Michael or Luke would have appreciated a smocked neckline. Okay, so I'm away at the other end. I pull my thread through. I'm going to just pull it out and then cut it off, leaving a decent tail, like that. You can just keep loading your needle up till you feel you can't do it anymore, and then pull through. And keep straight all the time. And there I am at the end. Pull through, make sure it's flat, like that, and leave a good end. And I am going to do all of them, right the way up to the top. I'm back with all of my little dots picked up, and you can see I've used a really messy knot there because I didn't want to pull it through the loose weave of the linen, but every single row has its own thread that's ready to gather. Now I'm going to start and gather this up. I've turned it upside down so it's easy for me to gather from the left hand side, and it's just a matter of pulling up the gatherings. and you try and pull them up evenly together. So I'm just going to work my way down a bit. So I'm going to pull in twos because I'm going to be tying them off in twos. So I'll tie up and I'll double check my threads again. I'm going to pull them all up to the same width. It sort of gets easier as you get down because you can follow what's gone before. But I am going to double check the measurement of every single pair. I hope it's going to work. What I'll do is I'll get all of these pulled in and then I'm going to try it back on, but I'll have to be careful because once the smocking's done and these are out, the smocking itself will be very elastic, but until then, if I snap one of these, I'll have to put it back in again. So it's actually good news and bad news, and the good news is it has smocked together nicely. The bad news is that I was hoping for a smocked panel of about 3.5 inches wide, but there just wasn't enough fabric. In fact, I've looked it up now and I should have had 3 times the amount of fabric as I need to be smocked, and I just had double. I'm going forward anyway. I have pulled my gathering threads up and I've tied them all off so they're all under there, and I'm going to smock with some pearl cotton. I changed to this very spring-like colour, which has got some pinks, purples and greens and yellows in, and so that's what I've got in my needle. I've got it in with a decent eye but a sharp point, and I am going to be smocking from right to left because I'm left-handed and that's the way my needle is going to go, and if you're right-handed you'd be starting at the opposite side. So I'm going to start, and I've just pulled my thread up from the back and I've pulled it half up the first pleat, and I'm going to do sort of like a stabilizing row, and I'm going to do, the other thing is that your gathering threads almost give you a straight line to be sewing on. So my first stabilizing row is going to be cable stitch, and I am going to go halfway down the next pleat, and I'm going to keep my needle above the thread. And the other thing is, you don't want to be pulling when you're smocking. You want it just to be snug without pulling. I'm going to go to the next pleat, and this time I'm going to have my thread above the needle. And this will just sort of set my pleats. And my next is going to go below the needle. It's sort of just like a back stitch really. And the next one will go above the needle. So I'm just alternating where the thread is to where the needle is going. And I'm just going to pull my stitches nice and firmly without pulling it tight, and work my way right the way along. And I am putting my needle in about halfway down the pleat. You don't just want to be picking up the tip of it, but neither do you need to go right down to the bottom. So just halfway down the depth. I'll work my way along, pulling each pleat in. I'm putting my needle in sort of along the middle line between these stitches. Just sort of set them together. So I'm ready for the thread to be below. I think this pretty thread's going to be lovely. And I've also had the idea of putting some beads in. So at first I thought I'd embroider some little rosebuds or something. And then I happened to see a picture ages ago, I remember it, where there were beads in among it. And I don't think I ever put beads in the ones that I did for Naomi when she was little. I always just did normal smocking, but I'm hoping this is going to be a practice for something I can do for myself that has a bigger panel, or maybe some smocked sleeves. I think I'd quite like that. So I'm going to put some beads in, I think. But this is looking pretty along here. I'm nearly at the end. I'm picking up every single pleat across the row. Just make sure these ones at the end are sitting right. They are. I'm not missing one out. I'm not. Definitely don't want to be missing any. And here's my last one. Well, the pearl cotton is going to give it a lovely shine. And I will just finish that off by taking my thread down to the back. And I need to finish off because with smocking you sort of don't go back and forward. Each row gets, I think I've made that a bit loose. Just going to tighten that up. Each row gets smocked from the same side all the time, so I need to start back here again and smock across. But I really have sort of left that quite loose, so I'm just going to tighten it up with the heel of my needle, and I think that'll do it. I've just pulled those stitches a little bit tighter. I think I'd actually left them a little more loose than they should have been. So I've pulled them in again. I've set them nicely. I'm quite happy with this little frill here. So I'm just going to finish this thread on the back by stitching through the back of the pleats and putting a little sort of once, twice through. Okay, so that's my first row in. And I think I will do another row underneath, and then that keeps that well stabilised in. So I'll do yet another one. So I'm going to just I'll come up through the bottom of those pleats and just give another exact same row. So this time I think I'll do an extra stitch on that I didn't do there, but as you can see that end has 2 stitches. This end only has 1 because I forgot to put that end one in. So I'll put the end one in, and here I'm off and ready. So thread up and thread down. All the way along. I'm not sure how this is going to come out, but already I know I'm going to be doing some more because I'm just loving the way the pearl cotton's looking. None of the gathering threads at the back come out till the very end. And really it's just your normal embroidery stitches in a way. There's nothing difficult about it. It's more, the difficulty is getting the pleats nice and even and holding them in. And obviously if I wasn't thrifting a shirt in the first place, I would have probably made a separate panel, but I can't make a separate panel when I haven't got the access to the amount of fabric. There definitely wasn't enough in the 2 sleeves and the collar that I took off. That's that row done. Take that down and get it finished off, and then I'll come back with a new stitch. So the next stitch I'm going to do here is called wave stitch, and I am starting down at the next row of gathering stitches, which are in here. This is where the gathering stitch is. So that's where I've started my thread, and I'm going to go up to a top and down to the other side. And to do it, it really is just about the same as what I was already doing, just in a diagonal row. So I'm going to take my first stitch through the second pleat along, just on the same plane as where my thread's coming out. Take that stitch. And then the next stitch is going to be that tiny little bit further up. So it's going to lie with that. And I go up. And then the next one goes up again, and each time you're really just going the thickness of the thread upwards. I've got my thread there caught, and I'll be able to do this 8 times because I've got 16 pleats. Have I done it yet? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. One more. And now I'm going to change from the thread, and I'm going to change and have the thread above, because I'm going to come back down the other side. So that's my top stitch, and now I'm going to come down the other side, and I have to aim for finishing where the other gathering thread is, which is here. I'm going to actually put a pin in so that it lets me know where I'm aiming for. So I'm aiming for there, and I'm going to come down exactly the same, but this time instead of my thread being below, I'm going to let the thread be upwards, but I am still going to come down by just 1 thread's width on every stitch and work my way right across to my pin. Got my wave over to the other side, and instead of finishing off, I've run my needle back through to the middle. So I thought I'd put a bead in. I've got these wooden beads here, mostly off old necklaces and things, and I've sorted some out that I thought would be the right size. Now if I pull this thread through like that, just make sure that's lying properly, I can thread a bead on and see if it'll sit in among the folds. I quite like this green one to be on, but I'm feeling it's going to be too big. So if I put it in there, or maybe not. Okay, I'm going to try it. So I'm going to go straight across through my folds, back over to the other side. Make sure I pick every one up, so there's 8 on each side. And out this side, and let's see if this bead is just going to lie in there. I think that's okay actually. I'm going to leave it there, and I'm going to do my wave stitch down the other way and back up again. So I'll do one stitch to start, and then I'm coming down, and each time I'm just coming down the thickness of the thread really. There's thread's going to lie above the needle as I'm moving downwards to make the next stitch. So you could be doing this zigzag right the way along a great big amount, and then you zigzag back to make the diamonds. But obviously I only have room to make one diamond. Here I am nearly to the middle. And each time now the thread will have to be above my needle, or below my needle, sorry, as I work upwards. And so I'm back. And this time I'll just put an extra stitch in, and then I'm through to the back to finish off. Let's see what it looks like. Oh no, it's fine. Oh, it's coming along. It is a bit of a big bead. I'll try a smaller bead next time. So instead of doing up and down to make the cable, I'm going to do sort of like a stem stitch. So I'm going to go, I'll take one stitch through the first fold, and now I'm going to keep going exactly in a straight line across here, and I'm going to keep my thread below every time. So really it's just a stem stitch done on the tops of the folds. The thing is trying to keep it in a straight line. I think I'm going up already. If I am going wiggly, I'll be taking it out, and I don't often take things out. But on smocking, you want it to look just right. There I am across the row. Oh no, one more. I'm going to do my second row along here, and this time instead of the thread being to the top, I'm going to leave the thread to the bottom, and it'll sort of make a little arrowhead, but I am just going to keep the rows together. So thread to the bottom and a stem stitch across. Just making sure I'm lying them in nicely and not missing a fold, and keeping my thread to the bottom. It's so different from sewing on sewing a stitch on a normal flat piece of cloth. The folds are bouncy when you hold them, but the effect is always lovely. I'm nearly across. Used to see smocking all the time when Naomi was little. All little girls' things were smocked. I'm not sure whether they still are. I haven't bought little children's dresses and things for years. So I'm not sure whether they still are, but they always used to be. You don't really see adult stuff smocked, I don't think, but I think I'm going to do. I'm going to start that trend. Not that I've been trendy in my life, but there's always chance. Right, oh that's nice. I'm doing the bottom. I'm going to do a similar thing to that, and as you might notice, I've actually changed the green bead. I put the little one in there and it fitted so much more beautifully than the great big one that I've undone the big one and I've put this little one in instead. And so I'm carrying on, and after I've finished this one, I am going to decide what patterns I'm going to do to fill the rest of this in. I hope this is just going to look pretty when I put it on. Be a bit different from what I've normally got. I don't wear trousers very often, but this would definitely be for an over the trousers thing. And there I am, back up to the top of there. I'll do one more to go down into the back. Finish that one off, see if I've got it square. Yeah, I think I've got it all right. Oh, they're a bit of a different shape. I don't think I'm going to worry. I haven't done this for so long. I think I'm going to just be happy that I do it and finish that off. And maybe I'll actually, instead of just working all the way down, I'm actually going to put the holding stitches in at the bottom, and then I can decide what piece I'm going to put in the middle. I don't want to work down and then I'll end up with a bit of a funny bit down here. So I'm going to do the 2 rows of cable stitch along the very bottom of it and then work out some of the middle bits. If I do a different stitch, I'll come back to you. I carried on doing the wave stitch, and what was supposed to be a little sampler of different stitches just ended up with me being carried away with cable, because it was showing up the lovely variegated pearl to such good effect. And when I did the 3 layers there, even though they were spread about, it made me go back and put an extra layer all around these ones. So the only bit I've got left to do now is this, and because I did want it to be a little bit of a sampler, I'm going to do a different stitch here. So there'll only be 3 stitches in the end. There'll be cable stitch, wave stitch, and now I'm going to do Van Dyke. So I'm doing Van Dyke stitch. Van Dyke stitch for me as a left-hander. My needle is obviously always pointing to the right, so I'm going to have to start at the left and move that way. I'm not sure that I can do it right-handed, but obviously you'd be starting on the opposite side. And I've just put the head of a pin here, I've got my pin in, just to give me I don't go off the straight, because I haven't done this for so long. I had difficulty keeping straight up there. So I've come in 2 pleats from the edge, and I am going to just back stitch over those 2 pleats and come up in the same point. This is a nice stitch when it's done sort of 2 or 3 rows together, so I want to be able to get 2 rows in here. And now that I've back stitched over those 2, I'm going to move down about 1 centimetre and go back 1 pleat, but then still pick up 2. So I've gone back 1 and forward 1. So I'll pick that up to see if you can see it. And I'm going to pull through, and it's going to make a lovely diagonal stitch that wraps round the 2nd pleat, like that. And then I will back stitch that in again, so do another stitch on the same point, so tying those 2 pleats together, and then I'm back up here and I go back 1 pleat, forward 1 pleat, and so pick the next 2 up. And what happens is you get a really lovely zigzag going on with the wrapping, the stitch that's wrapping. So I'll back stitch those 2 pleats together, sort of like a locking stitch. Just make sure I'm still heading for there, and back one, just move that out the way, back one pleat, forward one pleat, and the two pleats together. And I'm going to carry on across the whole row, hoping that I don't miss a pleat out, because I see they're a bit wavy here for some reason. Of course, it could be that I've worked both ends at the same time. But I couldn't stop doing the wave stitch because it was just coming out so lovely. Then my camera battery ran out and I just kept going. So that's why you didn't see so much of it. Because I was in the zone, as you would say. So back one and forward one. And a locking stitch. Back one, forward one. And you just carry on along the row. And I've done this stitch when I used to do Naomi's little gathered dresses when she was a little girl, and used to do sort of 3 or 4 rows of this down the yoke of a collar, the yoke of a little gathered dress. It just used to look so lovely. Now this is where my pleats have gone a bit funny. I'm not sure what's happened underneath, but I think maybe I've broken one of my gathering threads. I think that's what the problem is. And this is where I need that one there and this one here. Oh, I haven't done my locking stitch. So I'm concentrating on the pleats. Really, anybody who knows slopping will just think that's really sloppy looking gathered in, and maybe I should have put another gathering thread through. But I'm on my last 2 rows. I'm just going to deal with it. This purple or mauve, what colour am I going to call it? Lilac. This little lilac top. It's going to look so much more pretty than it did when I got it, because it had that funny big collar thing on, which is a bit weird. And weird sleeves as well. They just stuck out at a funny angle. It wasn't the only saving grace about it was the fact that it was mauve linen. Okay, this is where I've got a little pleat that's disappearing. I'll just pull it up with my needle, there it is, and then I've got them all back again. And that little one will be the last. And I'll just do a small little stitch there. And so my last row, I think, and I've got a little bit of embroidery to do. I think I'm doing it the right way. Start 1 pleat over comparison to what I did on the last one. So that I think should work. And you'll get 2 stitches together going along in the middle. Oh yes, that's lovely. I think I can keep this going quite nicely. I did want to put another bead in, but we'll see. And I still do have a little bit of embroidery to do on top, but not as much as I thought I was going to do, because I think I've just put more of this lovely thread on. It's just been the perfect colour. Definitely not saying this is high expertise, but it's definitely going to make a £3 or £4 thrifted top into something I can actually wear myself. And really, I didn't have to cut much off it. I cut the sleeves and the neck off, and then I've sort of really just gathered everything in. Box pleat at the back, and smocking at the front. And in the end, the only bit of machine sewing I did was the side seams to take them in, and the box pleat. Everything else has been hand, and it hasn't really taken that long. Just need to start wearing trousers now, because I don't actually wear them very often. Maybe I will now I've got a bonny smock top. I'm coming to the end, and I'm just going to manage with this bit of thread. And one more stitch, and then down to the back and finish off, and then I can show you what that bit looks like. I think that looks really pretty. I'll just put my thing there. I actually really like the way that it's sort of got this looseness here. I like that a lot. In fact, I might, if I do a blouse for myself with more, I'm going to utilise that and have pieces that are loose and pieces that are tight, because I really like that. But look how lovely the Van Dyke stitch is. It's so pretty. And it'll look looser than that once I take the gatherings out. I'm just going to get another piece of this green to put the leaves in, and it just came from my tangle. I'll move my bead out of the way. Four pleats again. Did it. Take that to the back, finish off. Well, here's what it looks like finished. I'm not sure whether I need to just put a stabiliser in here or not, but we'll see. I'm going to turn it inside out. And then I need all of these gathering threads off. I can just start to take them. So if I cut them, and pull the knot out, and I do that for every piece. That's why I left such nice big knots on it, so that they wouldn't bury inside and you can, get a hold of them. Just snip them off. And now I should be able to see the stretchiness of it. Whereas before it was stiff, but now it's got a lovely movement that it didn't have before. Look at the stretch in there. That's lovely. So I'm going to give it a press, and shall I stabilise this little bit of collar? I've got a feeling, because I like the gathers there, maybe the first look of it is that maybe the rest of the neckline might not lie straight. I can already see it bending, even though that's probably just because of the way I've been holding it. But I need that to be just there. So I'm actually going to put a gathering stitch into the back of there just to hold those gathers in a bit more of a controlled manner. And then I'll iron it and I'll show you what it's like on. Well, we've got sunshine, and so I thought I'd show you how lovely the top had come out. So I'm out in the garden. I'm wearing sleeveless because there's no wind hardly, and it's really warm. So I take the day as it comes, and I'm going to do some gardening after I've finished filming the end of this video. So as you can see, my top feels nice on. The extra tight smocking has worked really well. It's maybe a bit bright for you to be able to see it, but it's really lovely. It's come out really well. I'm very pleased that I didn't just cut it up and that I tried to do something a bit different. And just the little embroidery around the neck and the arms is just enough, and it feels lovely because it's lovely soft linen. So I hope you've enjoyed that, and thank you for watching, and I hope it inspires you to do something with something you might find in a thrift shop or an op shop. Go for the fabric. That's what I always do. I look at the fabric first and then think what I can do with it. And so this has come out nicer than I even thought it would. And I'm definitely going to be doing some more smocking. It really made me want to do something a bit more than just that. But that's plenty for this little blouse. Anyway, thanks for watching. See you next time. Thanks for visiting Marion's World. And bye everyone.